تتوقع إليه أو مع مدافعة الأخبثين وهما البول والغائط. So the chapter is on the dislike of praying when food is ready and you're inclining towards it, or when you are holding back going to the bathroom. Number one or number two. So the first hadith عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول. The Messenger of Allah said, لا صلاة بحضرة طعام. That there is no prayer when food is present. ولا وهو يدافعه الأخبثان. And likewise, when you are trying to hold back the two, calls of nature, as you say, needing to go to the bathroom. Rawahu Muslim. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim. So the Messenger of Allah was saying that there's no prayer when one of these two situations happens. There's a correct way to understand this and an incorrect way to understand this. One of the incorrect ways to understand this is to look at just the outward surface meaning of the words. And in the month of Ramadan, which is coming up, we break our fast. People have food ready. There's a bunch of food there. And they say, hey, prayer should not start. The hadith is authentic. The hadith says when the food is present, there's no salah. We're all just going to finish eating and then we're going to pray half hour later. This is not the way to understand this. The way to understand this is the way Imam al-Nawawi explained it in his chapter title. So he very subtly added the wording. He said, number one, it's karaha, it's disliked. When you find a hadith where it says like, la salata lihadha, there's no prayer when this happens, normally someone may be inclined to think that it's haram. He clarifies and he's saying, it's not about being haram, it's about karaha, it's being makruh. Makruh means something is disliked, but it's not sinful. It's rewarded if you avoid it, but it's not haram if you do it. This is number one. Number two, he says when food is present and you're inclining towards it. Okay, so the key here is we have to understand why this used to happen. Why would the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say something like this? As a Muslim, we know that prayer is more important than sleep. In the adhan, for Fajr, as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. Right? Salah is more important and better than sleep. Prayer is more important and better than food. So how could the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that there's no prayer when food is present, when we know as a basic principle of Islam, prayer is more important than food and than sleep and than all of these other things? It's because when we look at the maqsad, when we look at the underlying purpose of why the Messenger of Allah was saying it, it all comes back down to the category of being distracted during the prayer. If food happens to come out, and in the past they didn't have microwaves, it's hard to reheat food. Food just happened to be prepared exactly at this time, and that's exactly when you were going to pray. And then in the middle of prayer, notice he mentioned the two things at the same time. In the middle of prayer, you're thinking about, man, the food is going to get cold. We can't reheat it. Why did it have to come out exactly at this time? The same reason, if you really need to go to the bathroom, what are you doing? You're thinking, trying to focus on salah. I really got to go. Trying to hold this. So you lose the khushu', you lose the focus in your prayer. So the correct way to understand this is the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was trying to tell us as a category, bil jumla, as a general principle, don't do anything that's going to distract you from prayer. Finish off all the tasks. If they happen to be needed to be done right now, finish those things so that you can focus on your prayer. It's not about delaying prayer. It's not about giving precedence to something over prayer, but it's about removing the obstacles which are likely to distract you from focusing in prayer. So that's the correct way to understand it. So obviously, if we're intelligent Muslims, and we are, inshallah, you don't prepare food at exactly the time you're intended to pray. Right? You make sure the food is going to be served or ready at a different time. That's not exactly going to be the time of prayer. And if the time of prayer comes to the end of the time of prayer, and I've seen this with some Muslims. Honestly, I've seen some weird quotes of hadith. I've seen some Muslims, there's 10 minutes left for salah. Time is about to end. And there's food. The food comes out at that time. And they say, hey, we have to follow the hadith. The Prophet said, La salata bihadrati ta'am, rawahu Muslim. Authentic hadith. So they delay the prayer and they eat the food and they think somehow this is following the sunnah or the guidance of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is not. This is a trick of shaitan. So be careful how you interpret it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us khushu' and concentration and focus and humility in our salah. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.